Stephen Kisbey-Green, SKG, joins us for another hit about what's going on. Hook this stuff to our veins here in Ireland. South African rugby in crisis, beaten by Australia. How humiliating, Stephen.
Is Southern Hemisphere rugby not in crisis in general? Like, they're all just beating each other. Argentina are like...
Argentina's suddenly very good in the last 2 weeks. Suddenly very good in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's been great. What's happened to Safas, though?
Well, morning, lads. I don't think it's first of all, I don't think it's a crisis for Southern Hemisphere that every team is beating every team. It actually kind of shows that there's a level of competitiveness there that you don't really get, that you haven't really had for the past 10 years or whatever it is, where the All Blacks just dominated everything. Like,
apart from the World Cup, of course, which you guys
apart from the World Cup. I mean, we're brushing past, like, we know that the All Blacks are the most dominant team in world rugby history. South Africa legitimately are the second most dominant. They have the second highest winning percentage. But for me, it's just there's a level of competitiveness there that there hasn't been for a long time, and I think it's down to the fact that the All Blacks have not been as good as they previously were. South Africa seem to be struggling a bit at the moment with a lot of with the way that they're going about things. We can probably get onto the game plan a little bit later, but I feel like the way that Nienaber's evolving the game plan hasn't really been bought into by the rest of the players, maybe, or they're not fully understanding the way he wants to change it. It's not the typical South African up and unders and we jump for the ball, boring rugby that we played against the Lions. There is a bit of involvement, there is a bit of continuity there that Nienaber's trying to bring into the World Cup, and I don't think the squad has bought into that, so that kind of leads into the Australia loss. Australia, on the other hand, played the referee incredibly well on Saturday. I'm not saying that they did anything not untoward, but the way that
they kind of did, to be fair.
Well, I mean, what they did was they got under the South African skin by pushing the boundaries. Very Richie McCaw-like tactics where they made sure to check that everything that they were doing was okay with the referee, and the referee's okay with it, then you play on.
Yeah.
And South Africa didn't cope with that well enough. So it's very well coached, very well drilled tactics from the Australians.
It's a very nasty championship when it comes to everybody bitching and whining about the referees and each other's tactics. It's fantastic. It is absolutely fantastic to watch this. Cheika winding up the All Blacks and the All Blacks taking every second of it. Now, I didn't realise that the Australians had done the same to South Africa. Bear in mind, Australia had shipped like 6-7 tries the previous week to Argentina.
They were like 1 from 8 going into the game or something like that. They'd lost a lot of games.
Massive injury crisis. And South Africa are supposed to be like riding the crest of a wave, big deep panel, but also in a bit of a crisis, like having just been beaten by the worst All Blacks team ever, according to the All Blacks, certainly the All Blacks media. So what's your take on what's going on with this South African team? Is this just about them cycling through a bunch of players a year out from a World Cup, happy in the knowledge that they have a winning formula if they need to fall back on it, and trying therefore to have a plan B? Because that's what it looks like in the macro terms, is that you have a genius coaching ticket, you've got a core of brilliant players who know exactly what it takes to win under pressure, and that they can fall back on that, but actually it's better to try and guess that the future won't be as successful if you stay the same.
I mean, I don't think it's so much that they're trying to find a plan B as much as they're trying to evolve plan A into plan A+. So you can argue that the All Blacks is made up of largely the similar sort of structures. They're made up of a bunch of brilliant players on paper who have won World Cups. I mean, you've got some of the oldest forwards in world rugby currently playing for the All Blacks right now. You've got Beauden Barrett and Richie Mo'unga. Like, it's a team of big names, and yet, as you rightfully point out, it's the worst All Blacks team in history, because the quality and class is there, but the way that they're gelling together, it's not automatically a coach's problem, but there seems to be a player problem as well. Like, the attitude's not there. Now, to throw that onto South Africa, I'm not saying that South African attitude's not right, but just having the players that have been there, done that, won the World Cup, and you know that they've got a winning quality and winning sort of structure there, doesn't it automatically bring into the fact that it will automatically win you the World Cup if you rely on that? And I think at the moment it's more Nienaber is trying. If you look at the way they played against Australia, they held onto the ball a lot more, and they don't look comfortable with nearly as much possession as they had in the first half. They spent 20 minutes of that first half in Australia's 22, and they didn't score a try. You can't do that at international level against any team. It doesn't matter who it is, but especially not against Australia in Australia, where they haven't won in. I actually don't even know what the official.
It was an appalling record. It was going back a little, like.
Is it?
Yeah,
Really?
yeah.
It was a dismal
bizarrely.
record.
It was talking to Matt Williams Monday night. It's just been a long time.
Why?
I can't remember the exact.
I think it's 2012. I mean, I could be very wrong there, but
We've even beaten them since then.
yeah.
Okay, but is the whole point that if you're trying to evolve Plan A to A+, whatever it is, that takes time, and that's what they're doing?
Yeah, like
So that's okay.
I mean,
or is this a full-blown crisis? Are your buddies in South Africa going, right, new coach, worked for us the last time?
well, the buddies in South Africa are going on complete and total tangents, blaming the referee, saying that Paul Williams basically cost the game, which is actually. Do not get me started on that one. Everything that the coaching structure does right is apparently Rassie Erasmus, and everything that goes wrong is Jacques Nienaber.
He's a genius.
Rassie
is a genius.
Which is odd considering that Rassie is actually not involved in the day-to-day running of the Springboks.
Do we believe that?
You can believe it or not, it's actually factually correct.
But is it really? When you say he's not involved in the day-to-day running, like
So what he does is...
they're best mates.
They're good friends, and I guarantee you Nienaber consults with Rassie on topics and on game plans, and Rassie has a say in what is going on. But at the end of the day, it is Nienaber's game plan. It is Jacques' team, Jacques and Sticks and
The other guy.
Dion Davids and Felix Jones. They all are the team that put together what goes out on the pitch. Rassie shows up for jersey presentations, and he's there for maybe one training session a week.
The good stuff.
Yeah.
But he's still the boss.
He's the big boss.
Yeah, he's the boss. Everybody knows, Razzie's in town.
But then, does Rassie have the same sort of power over the women's team? You would hope so. You would say so. And yet, nobody's talking about the women's team just beating Spain 44-5 in the biggest ever win over a team that's bigger than them. So, I think Rassie is he's legitimately more the overseer of everything right now, because that is his role. And also, let's also not forget that he's still acting out that ban. It's only in November that he's allowed to go back to stadiums.
Okay. Well, we'll see exactly what day-to-day stuff. So, sorry, I didn't even realise that the ban was. I mean,
yeah, it was too.
It's been such an important ban. It's really had an impact on everything. Maybe that's what's missing, and the day-to-day stuff comes back in November. And then they go on a cascading unbeaten run for a year and win the World Cup again. I
mean, potentially. But I also, as you say, I don't think the Springboks are in crisis because, as you rightfully point out, they're building this far out ahead of a World Cup. You would hate for a team that is so phenomenally good a year out from the World Cup to be world #1 and then to go out in the quarterfinals.
Yeah, Stephen, we know what you're doing there.
Matt Williams' point was that it's great that France are basically the great team in the world at the moment because they play beautiful rugby. South Africa just replace 5 big lads with 5 big lads when they need to, and they're just brutes. And
they're bad for the game, essentially.
Exactly. He said, the substitute situation shouldn't be such that you can just replace lads. In the old days, you could only replace lads that were basically flagging and injured, and South Africa are kind of making the best of the rules, but it's not good for rugby.
Well, I mean, if everyone played the exact same style of rugby, then rugby would be bloody boring.
Or it might just be this amazing, it could be cool.
Have you seen Sevens? They all play the exact same style of rugby, and it's glorious.
Sevens is, I don't know what the point of that was. Like, why did they invent that?
No, but if you say that South Africa are ruining rugby, as people have said...
yeah, go on.
I'm paraphrasing, by the way.
Yeah, well, no.
We've said it, don't worry.
Yeah, if you're saying that South Africa is ruining rugby, you kind of... also putting the players at a bit of a disadvantage as well, because the way that Nienaber works with his bomb squad, as he calls it, is he puts out everything. He backs the tight three, or the front three in particular, to put everything out on the pitch. They effectively kill themselves on the pitch for 40 minutes, knowing full well that after the half-time, or just before half-time, or just after half-time, they will be replaced by another set of forwards that will do the exact same thing. Now, you can't do that if say you're Tyke Furlong, who plays 70 minutes of a test match, he can't go out in the first 40 and absolutely slaughter himself.
It's true.
Give all his energy, because Farrell does not trust the man coming in behind him to.
Well, he's not as good.
Well, I mean, he's not as good, but you would think that he would be willing to trust that the next man up is going to come in to put an equal amount of impact. If Furlong goes out and puts all of his energy into that first half, guarantee you he's going to get injured in the second half because he's going to be tired. He's going to be dead. He's going to be out.
It's anathema to the way the game has always been played here, I guess. You play your best players until they're tired.
Well, yeah, but like, just because, the thing, just because that's the way it's always been played, does not always mean that it's the right thing.
No, in fairness, you guys are taking advantage of the fact that you have multiple players who are of similar standard, and so therefore there's no diminution in quality when you replace them. And look, we understand the rules of engagement. That's fine. You guys bigger than us. We've got to be smarter. Styles make fights.
Exactly.
We are bringing knives to gunfights, though. Sometimes it feels like.
Who is the best team in the Southern Hemisphere right now, though?
Oh, South Africa by a mile.
No.
Is it though?
Yes.
Or is it just a little bit of a?
On paper, you would imagine, like if you look at each individual player on form, I would legitimately say that South Africa are the best team in the Southern Hemisphere. If you just pick out every single player, they have the best squad.
If they played a competition that they all really cared about, that was like going to be the defining competition of their lives, then South Africa would be smashing the other teams.
Smashing.
Smashing.
I disagree with that. I don't want that is just saying that is not me.
10 points. They'd be 10-point favourites in all those games, and they'd win all those games. They would smash New Zealand. If it was a fight for their lives tomorrow, where the World Cup trophy was being handed out at the end of it, or if it was a 3-test series there's nothing else. It has to be the World Cup because that's the rugby championship happens every year, and it used to just be the Tri-Nations, and then it was 4, and then they're like, oh, can we do other stuff? And it's just.
But South Africa genuinely care about the rugby championship because we haven't won it nearly as much as we should have. So it's one of those competitions that.
But then you've won the World Cup more than anybody else, and so therefore.
Tied.
Fair enough. But the next time will be the one where you break the tie. Just very, very briefly, some of the specifics about the team. You have had loads of injuries. I would argue that having injuries around this time is great because it means that players are going to get high-end experience, but then everybody will be fit or back to form by the time the World Cup rolls around.
Yes, as of this morning, Andre Pollard and Lukanyam are both out for the rest of the championship. They've actually gone back to their clubs. So Pollard's gone back to Leicester Tigers and Am's back to the Sharks. What that opens the door is up for Damien Willemse, who's had no game time at 10 this season, to play his first ever game for the Springboks at 10. And he's been probably the most exciting player in the Springboks this year. It wasn't his debut season, obviously, but it was his breakout season, if nothing else. He came into a very struggling South African attack against Wales in the second half and lit it up on fire, helped them win the first test, and then he's been brilliant. He was brilliant against the All Blacks.
And where was he playing there?
He was playing 15 and then slotted into 12 when Colby.
Now he's going to play 10 this weekend.
Yeah. So Nienaber said when he brought him in that he wants to be the next Francois Steyn, who can play basically the utility back. You just wouldn't put him on the wings because he's just not quick enough. He's got the lightning feet, like the quick step, but he's just not quick enough to.
Okay, so you're pretty excited about this.
Damien Willemse at 10 is incredibly exciting, especially considering that we have had no one to take the mantle of Pollard. We do actually have a bit of a similar situation to the Johnny Sexton situation, where Elton Yankees is the Joey Carberry in this situation. He's got all the potential in the world, and he's shown brilliance at times. But everyone in the country seems to hate whenever Elton Yankees makes a mistake. He's always the worst thing. With Pollard, whenever Pollard has a bad game, which he did against Australia, it's like, okay, cool, well, it's just the one blip, and yet those blips are becoming more and more frequent. Granted, he's not as old as Sexton, but nobody's taking the jersey off of him. Okay. So if Willemse comes in and has a phenomenal game, he could be the Kieran Frawley to take over the mantle. The other thing that worries me, though, is the fact that we've got Deon Fourie on the bench playing hooker. Now, Deon Fourie has not played hooker in 3 years. 2 years. Sorry, 2 years. He hasn't started a game at hooker in 3 years, but he hasn't played hooker in 2 years. And the idea is he wants to be like Nienaber wants Deon Fourie to be the next Skulk Brits, which in theory makes sense because Skulk Brits played a lot of 8 and a lot of hooker for Saracens, and then he played 8 and hooker for the Springboks in the World Cup in 2019. But
this is mad stuff,
isn't it?
But the flaw in that plan, though, is Skulk was playing regularly at hooker for Saracens when they brought him in as a hooker.
Okay, sorry, who's Deon Fourie?
He's a Stormer. Stormer.
Right, so they can just tell the Stormers.
Yeah, so URC champions.
You're going to have to play him at 2 now for a while.
Yeah. because the Joseph Dweba experiment didn't actually work out as well as we'd hoped, and I mean, South Africa thought that he was going to be a lot better than he.
But imagine if we could just stick a lad from the back row and play hooker. Like that level of flexibility is something that's fairly sensational.
Well, I mean, Kwagga Smith is probably the most versatile player in the world. I guarantee you, if you can put him at hooker, you can put him at prop. He has played on the wing. He's played at centre, but he's 100% a number 7.
Right. We have a lot of people who are around that shape. We just need to listen. I know it's difficult. You got to stick your head in there, and it's not going to be very good for you. But you just have to do it for the team for the next while. Josh van der Fleer playing 2, for the last 15 minutes of the game.
Is Van der Fleer not too tall to play 2?
Well, I don't know. How tall is Fourie?
I think he's about 5'7", 5'8".
Okay.
Like he's not the tallest loose forward in the world.
Okay. People are wondering your jersey. Which jersey? Which of your World Cup winning jerseys is this?
This is 2007. So only the one. I need to add the other 2 dates onto this one. Quite funnily enough, I found it a couple of weeks ago in my sort of suitcase when I came over. This is actually the exact same jersey that I was wearing in 2007. So to show my age a little bit, I was 11.
So it fitted you as an 11-year-old in 07, and
you were quite precocious.
I was rotund. I was round back then, apparently. But yeah, so I mean, but what impressed me more about it is the fact that it's not too short. Like I was a tall lad even back then.
Sorry, what age did you say you were?
I was 11.
That is
well, actually turning 11 because the World Cup was.
So you were 10.
The World Cup was in August, and I'm born in November. So.
You're now 20. 25, and you're wearing a top that ostensibly fit you when you were 10.
Yeah. And I did have a growth spurt between then. Yeah. No, I actually questioned whether or not this was actually my jersey, but my brothers both have their jerseys in my parents' home. My dad still has his jersey, and we never got anyone else's any other jersey. So this is legitimately the only one that I've ever worn.
You need to see that image of you wearing.
Are you playing any club rugby in Dublin? If anybody out there is looking to recruit. That was a serious question. I'm sure you could, I'm sure there's plenty of clubs in the AIL who would be like, oh, just come down.
Want a hooker who can play 8.
You can play 2, you can play 8. No problem. Bit on the wing.
You used to play front row. Now play 8.
So they're going to win this weekend. They've massively improved the team by the changes they've made for this weekend, and you're very excited. And they're going to finally beat Australia. Is that what you're telling me?
If they can be a little bit more penetrative in the 22 and actually convert the pressure into points, take the points when they're on offer, and actually score a try or 2. Then I'd say yes. I mean, obviously, it's a typical. If they score more than the opposition, then they'll win, obviously. But I think with Kenan Moodley on, he'll be a fantastic addition to the sort of attacking mindset. And if they can just get the ball into the hands of Kenan Moodley, let Jesse Creel play his type of attacking game plan.
Sorry, we didn't even talk about him. He's this wunderkind teenager who they've just added to the team, who's like going to, blow up World Rugby next year in the World Cup. So sorry, this is a long answer saying yes, they're going to win.
I'm hopeful of yes.
Okay.
Make it a 4-point win.